What is good, everybody? Welcome to a brand new edition of El Boogie and the Bell. I am the Bell here with the greatest host, co-host ever, El Boogie. El Boogie, how are we doing today?
Man, we just wrapped up a crazy weekend of college football. That playoff bracket is set. Today was a crazy day in NFL, man. It's been a great weekend of sports, and I'm ready to get into it.
Absolutely. Let's just go ahead and get started right with college football. We're gonna start with all of our championship games that matter, and even we're gonna start with one that might matter a little bit less, but nonetheless, we had an Army team that only had one loss this season. We'll see what kind of bowl they may get, but how do we feel about Army taking their first conference championship against Tulane, 35-14?
I mean, good win for Army. I've heard good things about their coach. I think their coach is up for like coach of the year this year. So I mean, I don't know, just good for the program. I mean, Army's never been like a top contender, or at least not recently. So seeing them relevant, seeing them win their conference, ending the year, I think ranked at 22, that speaks a lot for the military academy and the young men on that team.
Absolutely. I love to see a lot of those military schools take this blueprint and try to run with it. And I hope Army actually returns next year with the same type of energy and the same type of recruitment and program. So shout out to them for their first championship. Okay. Moving on, we had UNLV and Boise State in a little bit closer, but not too close of a game. We have Boise State taking the Mountain West Championship 21-7. El Boogie, how do you feel about them knowing that they're preparing for a very, very nice seeded spot, number 3 in the playoffs?
I mean, Boise State handled business. They handled business in front of their home crowd. Their defense came out and played hard, really kind of stifled UNLV throughout the game. Ashton Genty, another 200-yard day on 32 carries and a touchdown, really trying to strengthen his Heisman case here. But yeah, just a good team win. I think they've been, the thing about Boise State that I like is they have been consistent. They are a tough, physical team. They will run the ball. The quarterback he does just enough to get the win, and that's what we saw yesterday. So good for them.
Sure, for sure. I hope that they're really, really preparing for how much up the competition is going to get. Shout out to UNLV for ending up in the top 25 by the end of the season. So this is really good to see the Mountain West do. I know the Mountain West is about to get completely broken up after this season. Just kind of how the Pac-12 did. Everybody's kind of going into the Pac-12. Hopefully, a couple of those D1AA teams that come into the Mountain West workout. But now we're going to get into some things that matter deeply, just as far as the playoffs. Shout out to Boise State. Boise State definitely matters this year in the playoffs. They got a lot. They'll have a lot of eyes on them this year just because people are expecting them to get blown out the water. But anyways, we're going to talk about that later. Iowa State versus Arizona State. Now, before I even let you talk, El Boogie, I'm going to tell you, my prediction was correct. I thought Arizona State was going to be way too explosive for Iowa. Like, I knew for a fact they were going to be just way too explosive. Now, I was completely wrong for the first 2 quarters of the game. But towards this, well, no, honestly, the first quarter and a half. But as soon as Arizona started picking up, they couldn't even tackle. I don't even know his name. Number 4, they couldn't even tackle him. Like his center of gravity, he looked like a Madden 99 player. El Boogie, how do you feel about Arizona State securing their spot in the playoffs and winning a championship after a pretty shaky start, but finishing the game on a 6-game win streak?
They handled business, man. They handled business. It really wasn't a competitive game. Really, like they had complete control. Um, yeah, their offense poured it on, and I think this was a really good showing for them because this shows, okay, we are a threat. We just blew out a team in our conference championship, so that means we're ready to go up against. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're ready to go against a high caliber ACC team, a good SEC team, a good Big Ten team, and give them a run for their money. I think they're ready to not get blown out, is what I'm trying to say. But they played a really good game, and like you said, they bounced back after having a kind of turbulent first half of the season.
Yeah, based off of the way they played in the championship game, I don't see them not scoring 24 points against whoever they play, which should make for an entertaining game. Do I see their defense holding up against a SEC team or just a higher ranked team, maybe like a Notre Dame or Penn State? Nah, not really. I think they will get outscored on the defensive side of the ball, but they did a really good job with Iowa. So Shout out to them for the win. I am expecting good things out of them. We're gonna look at the bracket after this because I don't know what they have to start. But moving on to who do we got? Who do we got? Excuse me. Excuse me. Georgia. Well, let's save them. I want to save that one. Penn State versus Oregon. Now, Penn State, I never believed was going to win this game throughout this game. I watched a good amount of this game, but I never thought Oregon was going to lose. But shout out to Penn State for competing at the highest level, and I believe that they still earned their spot. El Boogie, how do you feel about this championship game? What is that, Big Ten?
Definitely Big Ten, yeah, and definitely a closer game than I thought. I thought Oregon was gonna, have a 2 touchdown win, but no, Penn State kept it close, and good for them. Honestly, they showed that they're seriously a serious team. And Oregon, I mean, the quarterback had a great day, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Offensively, played a really good game. I think Penn State was just able to keep up with them. Um, but yeah, Oregon, man, first year in the Big Ten. I remind you, this was a Pac-12 team a year ago, and now they're in the Big Ten, and they just won the whole thing, ranked #1 in the nation. So I think, really, honestly, credit to the head coach, Dan Lanning. He's really made a huge impact on that program.
I hope they super take advantage of this bye week. The number one thing I'll say is like you guys aren't about to play, so you'll get to see exactly how every single team's playing for this playoffs, and you don't have to reach any top four teams, which the top four isn't that powerful right now, actually, just to be honest. Um, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy selling for them, but I do think that they could get rolled over by somebody that they're taking lightly. So pay very close attention to the first round, and we'll see what they do when they come back out. But they've created such a great cushion for themselves this year, and hey, shout out to them for a pretty. I mean, it's the if you win your conference championship, you have a successful season. You could go into the next season with a lot of credibility just within your conference. So now that they're #1 comfortably, never really had too many scares, I think their season was an accomplishment. If you want to take it to the next step and win this championship, well, so be it. Next, we had an interesting one to me. So I really did think SMU was going to win this game. This is coming from a guy who didn't really know that SMU was in the ACC. But shout out to Clemson for a hell of a comeback. I mean, I gave up on Clemson right after that Georgia loss. I think that was like what, week 1 or 2, and they just got blown out the water. And I'm like, yeah, this Clemson team is definitely going to be on the decline. Came all the way back and won their conference championship game. Boogie, how you feel about Clemson and SMU 34-31? Close game.
Yeah, close game, very entertaining game. SMU, they really tried to mount that comeback at the end. But honestly, this game felt very weird for me just because I think we went 90% of the season thinking, all right, the ACC belongs to Miami. Like Miami was had the control of the ACC, and they didn't play in this game because they lost to Syracuse, and so Clemson got in, and now Clemson's won it all.
All right, everybody. Quick little technical difficulties. Boogie, I think you were proving a point about SMU.
Yeah, SMU. I really just don't get it with SMU. Like I don't get. I mean, aside from them having a good conference record, I don't really get why they were ranked so high. There's not a lot of dominant wins on that schedule. I don't know. I just don't see it. But we'll get into the playoffs ranking anyway. But I'm just saying SMU. I don't understand it.
Okay, and then moving on to my favorite game of championship weekend, El Boogie, um, Georgia versus Texas. How do we feel about this one? I think this one was a boring blockbuster, but it was a blockbuster nonetheless, just because of all the storylines that happened within this game. What do you feel, El Boogie?
I felt like this was a very ugly game by both teams. Honestly, the the one takeaway I took is that even though these are two good teams, I don't think they're two great teams
Mm.
because they both have glaring weaknesses. Georgia, okay, your defense is good. You can run the ball. Carson Beck. At the beginning of this season, they were saying he was going to be a top 5 draft pick next year. Carson Beck has had probably his worst starting season of his college career, and he was doing okay, and then he got hurt. They put in the backup throws an interception, doesn't really do much. So Georgia has a quarterback problem. Meanwhile, Texas, on the other hand, kind of also has a quarterback problem in the sense that Quinn Ewers, his decision making isn't great, and I think he's too one dimensional. He's too one dimensional to the point where he has to throw the ball 40 plus times. So the defense is going to, try to stop the pass. Honestly, one thing that I was surprised by was the fact that Texas didn't put in Arch Manning. Like they trusted their experienced quarterback who wasn't having a great day, and they kept him in over trying in Arch Manning, who was at least more of a run threat. I feel like that little extra element maybe could have put them over the top of Georgia, but I don't know. But again, I don't think these are two great teams, which really calls into question the strength of the SEC that everyone talks about.
And
So I don't know. What do you
I
think?
don't know how fair it is because the SEC's been like this all season. You could say that the same things that you're saying, you could say that about a lot of teams this year. Can you agree? Like, there's a lot of teams, specifically in the SEC, what you just said, like, they have the same problem. I could say that Alabama has the same problem. They have a quarterback situation where it works when it works, but it doesn't when it doesn't. It's either one dimensional, it's either this or it's either that. Now, I'm saying all these players are different with different styles. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go keep going.
Yeah, all these players are
I
different with
was just
different
gonna
styles. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you could say that about every other conference and every other team, but look at the top teams at the Big Ten, for instance. Look at the two teams at the Big Ten, Penn State and Oregon. You know where I don't have questions about those teams? The quarterback position. That's where I
Okay.
don't have questions. Texas, I got questions. Georgia, I
I
have
think the SEC
questions. Tennessee, who's in? I have questions. And that's
defense
the
in
most
the
important
SEC
position.
has thing. I think that the defenses in the SEC have definitely showed to be the strong suit, especially with all these random losses on all these SEC teams from the teams that are either ranked or unranked. I think Texas got exposed once again. I did think they came to play, but I think a lot of things went in their favor. I saw a very frustrated coach go into the locker room talking about we need more holds and stuff like that. That's after injuring Georgia's quarterback and him being out for the rest of the season. I didn't really see this quarterback rally his team to a win as much as the game was so just everywhere. I just feel like the game was everywhere, and I do think what's this guy's name? What's this dude's name? What's this young
Which one?
Gunner
For
Stockton?
Georgia?
I think Gunner Stockton
Oh
just
yeah.
ended up in a decent situation. He didn't do nothing special. He did drive him down the field and get a touchdown, which he didn't score the touchdown or pass for the touchdown. But 12 of 16, 71 yards, one interception. It just felt like he kind of managed the rest of this game because it ended up being a low scoring game with both teams just making just enough mistakes for him to end up with this win at the end of the game. And Texas had a chance to win this game. They just didn't. it was it was a very awkwardly offensive played um championship game. I just think I don't even know if defenses dominated as much as I want to say the offensive plan for both teams wasn't really well put together. And let's just talk about it. Georgia's not defending their quarterback. Like there was no issues getting to the backfield for Texas. All first half. They had no issues touching their QB like at all. Did you notice that? Like Carson Beck got hit freely. I'm not saying he was holding the ball too long or anything. I think it was very prevalent that Texas put a lot of pressure on him, and that ended up in that injury. So,
Well, I think it's when you watch it all season. I mean, Texas drew up the pressure because he hasn't done good under pressure all season. Like that's been a glaring weak point is that when he's in a pressure situation, people in his face, he doesn't make good decisions and he turns the ball over. So if anything, I feel like that's more just good scheming. But a good quarterback is going to say, "All right, I'm getting pressured. Find the open guy. Find this guy. Find this guy. Where's it coming from? You know." So I don't know. I think
I didn't
that's what's
feel
going
a
to hold back
strong.
Georgia from going far.
Well, yeah, it was an interesting SEC matchup. Now, speaking of interesting SEC matchups, El Boogie, we have officially arrived to our college football playoff bracket. Before we talk about our first games, let's talk about the people who actually don't have a game and have a bye week. We end up with Oregon. Texas still ends up with a bye week. They went from what? No, they weren't even. They stood at number two basically. Wait, am I wrong?
Uh,
Okay, I'm reading the wrong.
no, they're the
Yeah,
fifth seed. They're the fifth seed. They're playing.
my bad. I just had mine up. Do you have the bracket up? You want to go ahead and do 1 through 4 for me?
Yeah, yeah, I do. So 1 through 4. So we got Oregon, number one team pretty much all season, number one at the bracket. That's an easy one. Georgia, SEC champ
Georgia.
at number 2. Boise State, the Mountain West champion at 3, and Arizona State, the Big 12 champion at 4. So those 4 teams get a bye week. They get to chill until the second round of the playoffs.
Now, before we talk about the games, who do you believe? Like, who can you not believe is inside this playoff bracket? Like, who do you think is like, why are you here?
Honestly,
Alabama's
I'm
out.
still surprised. I am surprised that SMU is still in. Honestly, I thought the ACC was gonna be one team in. Whoever wins that championship game, that champion is in, and then I thought Alabama was still going to be in, even though I still don't believe Alabama should have been ranked over Miami. I still don't, but I thought Alabama would have been in instead of SMU. So I think that's one surprise, but I
Do
mean,
you like
outside
Indiana
of
in?
that, yeah, I do. Because what they lost that one game to Ohio State, I believe. If we're letting an Indiana in, I mean, or let me rephrase, if we're letting in Boise State, we should let in a one-loss Indiana team where their only loss is to Ohio State. If we're letting in, for if we're letting in SMU, Indiana
Why
should be
didn't
in. So
Indiana
I
play in the championship game?
conference record. I think because Ohio, I think because Oregon was undefeated in conference, and Penn State only had one conference loss. But I think Ohio State had two conference, or no, Indiana had one conference loss. I think it was like a weird tiebreaker scenario. I think it's a weird
Yeah, I
tiebreaker.
think Indiana really lucked out. Wow, it looks like they just really, really lucked out. So who did Indiana lose to again?
Ohio State. Yeah, they lost to
Weird
Ohio
tiebreaker.
State.
Penn State beat Ohio State.
Say again.
And see, this is the issue. This is the issue. I would have liked to see Indiana get into the playoffs by playing in their championship game, but whatever. Alabama's out. I'd rather see Alabama than SMU. Notre Dame, they're not going to win it all, but I think that they are exactly where they need to be. Texas at 5 is somewhat fair because I would have just had them at 6. So hey, 6 or 7.
I think
Um,
you lose that game. You lose twice to Georgia. I would have liked to see them drop a little bit further, like a 7 or an 8, not 5.
you don't want to see a Clemson over Alabama. I mean, Alabama over Clemson.
No, again, conference champion should be in. Conference champion, you win your conference, you're in. I think SMU shouldn't be in. SMU should not be in. Really, it should be Miami, but Alabama or Miami should be in that 11th seed.
So how many SEC teams did we get? We got 2. That's it.
We got.
Did
What
we
do you
get
mean?
3?
Tennessee,
That's it.
Texas,
Tennessee.
Georgia.
Tennessee won. How do you feel about Tennessee? I
I
think they're
feel
the
okay.
sneakiest team.
I'm not mad that they're in, and I think really what helped keep them in, especially over Alabama, was the fact that they beat Bama. Even if those
That's
teams
it.
ended with the same record, you can't say Tennessee can't get in and Alabama can. Nah, Tennessee they should be in there. I feel good about where Tennessee is. I feel good about Penn State should be lower too, in my opinion. Um, Notre Dame. The thing I feel like Notre Dame has the biggest hack out of all of these teams because what this shows is that all they have to do is lose one game a season, maybe two, and they're pretty much going to get into the playoff because they're never going to lose a conference game. They're never going to win a conference game. But if they have one loss in the season, they're essentially in, and there's not much of
They
an
always
argument
get the
against it.
strength of schedule battle. Yeah, they always win the strength of schedule because they literally handpick their schedule. I don't think Notre Dame gets past Indiana. So let's get right into the games.
Really?
Let's start with Indiana versus Notre
Whoa,
Dame. I think Notre Dame
whoa!
gets upset early. I think that's what I'm putting in my parlay. I think Indiana upsets Notre Dame. I think Indiana has a lot to play for. I think Notre Dame is probably the better team, but I just feel like out of everything that could possibly go wrong in this playoff, I think that's the only one. I think we're expecting like a Boise to get
At
beat
Notre
down. I'm
Dame?
expecting to the next round. I'm expecting Oregon to beat whoever comes up next, which is going to be great out of Tennessee and Ohio State. Um, I'm expecting Texas to beat Clemson. I don't want to get too far ahead because we're going to talk about each game, but I think the only upset that I honestly see in my heart on this playoff bracket is Indiana. Yo, Boogie, what do you? You
I
think
think
Notre
that's
Dame got it hands
crazy.
down?
That's crazy. At home, yeah. I think at home, yeah, I think they're going to take it. Now, to be fair, I don't think either team is going to get past Georgia, so they have a pretty tough go of it. But yeah, Indiana's definitely winning, dude. What? 100%.
Absolutely.
Oh
SMU
wait,
and Penn
oh my bad. I
State.
said Indiana, didn't I?
Mark,
Anyway,
Mark,
Penn State is 100% going to beat SMU. Not even not a fraction of a doubt. Penn State, that's an easy win. Um, if anything, I think arguably out of all the teams who play in the first round, I think Penn State has the easiest path to the championship. Because their only tough game, in my opinion, their only tough game is Georgia. Their only tough game to get to the championship is Georgia.
Boise's
So
gonna
I
play
think
a
they have
hard
the
football.
easiest. Hard, yeah. It's. I think there's still levels to it. I really do think there's levels to it. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I definitely see if Penn State beats SMU, I see Penn State also beating Boise State at a neutral field. 100%.
Okay. Moving to the other side of the bracket, I am picking my easiest paths to the championship is actually going to be Texas. Um, yes, they have to
What?
run into Oregon. Yes, wait, hold on. I think Texas beats Clemson. I think Texas beats Arizona State. I think Texas is only getting exposed by other SEC schools. The reason why I say it's the easiest because their only matchup, in my opinion, is going to be that Oregon game. And Oregon hasn't played a SEC school, and if they have, they haven't played anybody in the top three teams in the SEC. If Oregon gets exposed by anybody, it's going to be a top level SEC team. Is Texas a top level SEC team? Yes, they are 110% a top level SEC team against every team besides one team this year, and that's been Georgia. Now, I don't think Texas goes in there and just gets steamrolled, but I do think Texas smacks Clemson. I think Texas allows Arizona State to get a lot of points, but I do not think that Arizona State beats them. I think the team that has the best chance of beating Texas is Oregon, and they will be the stopping factor going into the championship. You can't tell me that Texas is going to lose to Clemson or Arizona State. Please go ahead and do so.
I'm not going to. I just think it's crazy you think going through Oregon is easier than going through Georgia, whose starting quarterback just got injured and probably isn't playing, and their backup isn't really
I don't
great.
think the Boise State
And
game is going
that's
to be
their
as easy as
issue.
you think.
That's their I think it's gonna be pretty easy. Listen, bottle up Ashton Genty, crowd the crowd the box with 8 people or 7 people, you are gonna win the game. That's it. That's all you gotta do. I'm telling you. So, nah, I, because essentially what you're saying, because I do agree with you. Texas over Clemson, Texas over Arizona State. I definitely do. But going through
Yeah.
Oregon is hard, and the reason why it's going to be hard is because I think that game is going to be a shootout. And one thing Oregon hasn't done, and they are built to do, is win a shootout. So I I don't have that much faith in Texas and Quinn Ewers. I really don't.
I have faith in Texas making it to this Oregon game and actually shocking people in the game. I don't have them winning, but I have them shocking people in the game. Um, I think they have the best chance to recover from a SEC loss, a championship loss. Okay, Tennessee and Ohio State. This is probably going to be the best game this weekend. Is it this weekend or do they get a week off?
And
It's
they get
this
a week
weekend
off,
already.
so it's
I was about to say like we're just
oh no,
rolling,
it's
huh?
so next week is just Navy and Army, and then the week after the
Okay,
playoff starts.
so they're week 17. Yeah, because week 16 is Navy and
Yeah,
Army.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, week 17. This is gonna be a game. I think this one should be the prime time game. I think this one should be your 4:30, 5:30 on a Saturday. Like people are gonna be tuning into this one. El Boogie, Tennessee versus Ohio State. Who you got?
I'm gonna take Ohio State. I'm taking
Mm,
Ohio State in a really tough physical one. I because Tennessee, my thing with Tennessee has been the consistency issue. They've been too inconsistent. I think their offense isn't what we thought their offense was going to be. They have a really good running back, but their quarterback Nico I am Aliva, I always mispronounce his stuff. He hasn't looked like what everyone thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season. Um, but Ohio State is everything we thought they were going to be. Even though they lost to Michigan, I get it. But I think coming off of that Michigan loss and getting embarrassed like that, I think that team is going to be fired up and ready to play. So that's why I'm taking Ohio State.
I think Ohio State actually loses for that very reason. I think Tennessee is gonna manipulate every single thing that Michigan did right in their strategy to beat Ohio State. I think Tennessee moves to the second round and makes for a very very interesting second round against Oregon. Now I don't got them beating Oregon just because of Oregon's explosiveness. I think Tennessee doesn't have. They put 71 points up on Kent State. Um, 71-0. Like, can you imagine? Um, this Tennessee team has a dangerously explosive offense against bad teams, and they have an explosive offense against good teams, and they have two tough losses against really good teams, like a Georgia when they were probably at their best strength. So I think Tennessee is gonna win this game. I think Tennessee. I'm going for some underdogs this week. Obviously, I got Indiana, Tennessee, Texas is a no brainer, and then Penn State just because I have no faith in SMU. I'm going for some. Yeah, those are the two. If I have two to pick, I just feel like Tennessee's gonna walk away with this win. I don't feel like Ohio State's destroyed, but think about all the controversy that's happened with Ohio State. They just got done trying to beat up a team after they lost the game and they're worried about fighting after the game. Like, no, fight during the game. They're coming off of all that media pressure. They're coming off of all that stress and factors. Tennessee snuck into the playoffs. So they're ready and prepared to play in the playoffs. That's what they've been preparing for. Ohio State's preparing on how they're going to act and how they're going to conduct themselves after taking such an embarrassing loss and not being in their championship game. So I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I think Ohio State's coming in with a different attitude than a Tennessee. And I think their coach has a lot of bit of pressure. He definitely stood behind his players, which is good to see. On the flip side is like Tennessee is literally sneaking into this playoffs, and I think they're gonna make a sneaky win. I think they're gonna be the sneakiest team to make it to the second round.
We'll see. I still can't get over your Texas take,
Indiana
though. It's
is gonna make
crazy.
it to the second round of the playoffs. I think this is like their first successful season in life.
Oh no, this is program history for them, and they were projected to be like a 1-10 team or something crazy like that. Like it's
Shouts out to
insane.
Indiana.
It's insane.
Do great things. They beat Michigan. Michigan sucked this year, granted, but I'm just saying, like you gotta be somewhat fair. All right, Boogie, we're not gonna run through every single NFL game, but we are gonna be making our transition into the NFL. We had some good storylines today. We might breeze through a couple of the sorrier teams, but instead of going an hour over like we did last week, we're just gonna get right into it. So the Packers and Lions on Thursday Night Football. We got the Lions one. Ooh, excuse me. What week am I on? Yeah, I'm right. The Packers and
No,
Lions.
you're
I
right.
completely missed this game. I woke up to the Lions being, oh, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. Another dominant performance by Jared Goff, 32 of 41, 283, three touchdowns, one interception. With Jordan Love having just an average game and keeping it close for his team, 12 of 20, 206, one touchdown. Boogie, how you feel about this game?
This was a fantastic game. Honestly, the best game of the week was on Thursday. Unfortunately, it was a really competitive game. Like those teams were trading blows back and forth. I think there were 3 or 4 lead changes throughout the game. Um, I think the thing that it showed is the Lions, despite having I think 13 or 16 players on IR and most of them on the defensive side of the ball, their defense isn't great, but their defense just does just enough to win these nitty gritty games. Their offense, obviously, when Jared Goff is at his best, you have your two headed running backs duo with Gibbs and Montgomery who just beat teams up. This team can win the Super Bowl. Like honestly, the biggest concern is just the injury attrition, but the Lions absolutely can win the Super Bowl, and the Packers are a really good team. Like they are, they are. I think the Packers in a year from now could be in the NFC Championship. I
Oh,
100% see it. Uh, so yeah, I think this is just it was just a heavyweight battle. The Lions come out on top, of course, keeping that number one seed in the NFC. But man, it was a game. It was a fun one.
yeah, I just want to say shout out to the NFC North and the AFC West. Like they're truly, truly the best divisions in football. From as far as AFC and NFC, like I think that is good to see three teams like dominating most of the league and then coming together and playing really good football against each other. Even in the AFC West, like you have people like the Raiders who are competing with the Chiefs like down to the wire. I just like to see the divisions having really great divisional games, and not only that, but having more than two teams actually be real contenders. Like I could see these teams beating each other in the playoffs. I could see the Packers losing 2 games in the regular season and then beating them in the playoffs. Like that's how good these divisions are. Now, of course, we want Detroit to make it further and not get stumbled up early by a divisional team. Um, but I think it's really dope to see. So as far as this game, I didn't get to see it. All I got to hear was all the news and hype for Detroit. Detroit's actually an investment spot for me, so it's good to see Detroit being lively again. I hope Detroit could be lively for the next 5 years. And if this is their Super Bowl year, if this is their chance to make it in, and they're clearly the front runners, I hope they don't fumble the bag, and I hope that they find more ways to win football games. Because every single situation they've been in this year, they have proved that they could win football games. They've been in blowouts that got close. They've been out and about in the first half, came back in the second half and won. They've had their quarterback throw 4 or 5 interceptions and win a football game still. Any position that they've been put in, they found a way to win. I think even overtime game, maybe I think they had one overtime. They found a way to win the football game. I think that they really ride behind their coach and their program. I think that the Lions, once you learn every single way to win a football game, that's the way you beat a team like the Chiefs because they've already learned that. How do you win the football game? It doesn't matter what happens during the game. It matters what the final score is. It matters what the final plays of the game to make sure that you determine that you are ahead in points. I like the Lions this year. They're giving me definitely Chiefs vibes. They're definitely giving me first Super Bowl win vibes. So shout out to the Lions. Shout out
Yeah.
to the Packers. Like
The
like
only
I
thing
said,
with them
AFC
though,
North, AFC West, great. Go ahead.
the thing with the Lions though, their last 4 weeks of the season are brutal. They have to play Buffalo. They have to play Minnesota. They have to play the 49ers on the road. And they have to play the Bears on the road. So they don't really have. I mean, the
Most
Bears
likely.
game is questionable, but the
Yeah,
Bears game is questionable. But having to play Buffalo and Minnesota, and I think it's back to back weeks too. So having to play the Packer or sorry, no, the Vikings is the last week of the season. But having to go from the Packers to the Bills, that's a tough 2 week stretch. So,
for sure. I'm expecting
but we'll
definitely a
see.
shootout
We'll
next
see.
week. So And the Bills might be coming for vengeance. They might be taking another step back like they did today, but we'll get to that. Um, I just want to show some love to this game. We don't got to spend too much time on it. Jameis Winston, the risk taking is too strong. I actually got to watch this game. They were in a somewhat position to win this game. I think I kind of caught Jameis Winston today in the act of he's a true believer, and sometimes your belief can go against you. I think sometimes and I think a lot of times with his decision making, we're talking about Mister 30 for 30. I think that he has great intention when the ball leaves his hands. And I think his mind has great intentions of what he sees on the field. I'm serious. I really want, because the last interception he threw, you could tell that one really took him apart because I know what he saw. We saw what he saw, but it's not you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't the last play of the game. It wasn't like the last play before the game winning field goal. And I don't think even the receiver took it that way. And it was a little overthrown and he just plays with an urgency that might be more detrimental than beneficial for him.
I think an upside for the Browns. Watching Nick Chubb run the ball, it seems like Nick Chubb is getting healthier and healthier. Even though he didn't have a crazy game, seeing some of those runs, it looked like he was, he's playing himself back after coming off the ACL. So I think that shows good upside for next year. For next year, when you figure out what you're going to do at quarterback, if I think they're going to bring in somebody. Love Jameis, but I don't think Jameis is your answer. You can't get rid of Sean, so I think they're going to bring in somebody next year. So that's the upside for the Browns. For the Steelers, I mean, the top of the AFC is tough, dude, because Russell Wilson is playing really good football, and what I like about it is the Pittsburgh Steelers are putting him in a position to be successful. Even with your number one wide receiver out, even going against a pretty good pass rush and one of the best pass rushers in Myles Garrett, I saw several times where Myles Garrett was accounted for, where Myles Garrett was essentially erased from the play. And even when he got in Russell's face, Russell made the right decision. I think he even juked him on one play to kind of break free. So Russell's playing in his best football that we've seen in a while, and the Steelers are, giving him the reins and giving him the best ship that he can steer. So I think they're going to be a very scary team. I honestly see them upsetting somebody in the playoffs. I really do see it. But yeah, honestly, yeah, I really do. If 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 they are healthy and they catch it, now one thing I will note, I do not think they're built for a shootout. I don't think they're built. I don't think they're built for a shootout where you have to go back and forth. I think they like to have a control of the game, beat the other team up in the game, and have a steady lead throughout. If they have to go back and forth like what we saw between Buffalo and the Rams, you score a touchdown, we score a touchdown, you score in a game like that. I don't think I see it. But in a game where they take control, and yeah, they're going to be tough. Like I said, in the right situation, I think they can beat all those teams. Maybe not the Chiefs, just because I think that, and not because the Chiefs are great, but because I think they're going to get outcoached. I think Andy Reid is going to outcoach him. I think I could see Andy Reid coming up with a game plan that's so diabolical that Mike Tomlin's like, "Shit, man, fuck, we lost." like I don't know, but I could see them beating the Bills on the right day. On the right day, we've already seen them go toe to toe with the Ravens. You know, so I could see an AFC Championship. And again, they didn't have George Pickens today. George Pickens did not play, so your number one wide receiver was, not even a factor today. Imagine with shoot, yeah, technical difficulties. Gonna go ahead and
Look, I'm gonna be so pissed if my recording hasn't recorded this whole time.
oh, you
Like,
don't think so?
yours has been recording, but mine hasn't, and I'm just like so distraught about it. But we're just gonna keep going and see after. And I'm just
The
so
echo's back.
oh my god. I don't know. Tragic. This might be one of our most tragic episodes, but I still enjoy the conversation. So we're gonna finish it through, y'all. Bear with us. Anyways, El Boogie. All right, moving on. We're gonna blitz through this game. Saints Giants. As long as you guys are having fun, as long as you come to the football game for cheap. I mean, New York's an expensive city, so if you guys are giving them a reason to be able to watch some football games for cheap, God bless you guys. You got anything with either of these sorry ass team seasons?
Not at all. Aim for a high draft pick. That's
Yeah,
all.
that's it.
That's all.
As long as you guys are having fun. Shouts out to the Saints, man. They are putting together some wins. The Jets and the Dolphins. El Boogie. How do we feel about the Jets being now? We say the same thing every week. How do we feel about the Jets being 3-8? How do we feel about them being 2-6? How do we feel about them being 3-9? El Boogie, how do we feel about the Jets being 3-10? And how do we feel about the Miami Dolphins kind of it would take a big fumble from the Broncos, but being the only team in pursuing of the Broncos for that last playoff spot?
Man, I was rooting for the Jets today just because of what you said, with Miami being the only team that could threaten the Broncos. Man, the Jets, it's like there are times when they just show greatness. Aaron Rodgers shows greatness. He had a couple great passes. His touchdown to Devontae was nice. But I a part of me doesn't even want to blame it fully on Aaron, even though he'll have a really good first half and then a really crap second half. But this football team just isn't good. This isn't a good football team, and I think it's okay to say. I think we thought this team was much better, especially after last year and winning 7 games with Zach Wilson at quarterback. But this is just not a good football team, man. It's just not. And Miami, honestly, Miami didn't look amazing. Tyreek Hill and Tua, they connected today. But outside of that, they didn't look great either. Yet the Jets couldn't pull it off. So I just think the Jets are just not a good football team. And personally, I think you need to blow it up. Honestly.
I don't think that you're going to get a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers for next year. And I don't think that they don't have a team where they just need drafts. Like, they don't need to just, we need our quarterback. They don't need like a Bo Nix. You know what I mean? They don't need, like, they don't, what do they need? Like, what do they honestly need? But it is a bad team. Maybe more defense, maybe a better defensive strategy, but I don't
You
know what
had a good defense and you fired your coach. That was so
your
stupid.
defense minded coach as well.
That was so dumb. Oh my goodness.
What they really, truly, truly need is another season. And it sucks because we're saying that for the second season because Aaron Rodgers went out on the very first play of last year. Robert Saleh didn't get his fair chance, and I think it's playing out for the rest of the season. Just a really ugly team with some really ugly losses. Aaron Rodgers is playing fine to me. I don't. If he was the starting quarterback for the Broncos and we were not 3-10, but if we were 5-5, I'd be like, you're not going to get a better quarterback in free agency, and you're dang sure not going to get a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers next year in the draft. Now, if they have another season like this, you're going to get a great quarterback in the draft because then it's like, okay, Aaron Rodgers got to go. They're too young. They're too young, and they got some good veterans now. They're too young.
We can't.
They got some good veterans. They should be a great team next year.
We can't say that they're too young when a lot of their star players are not rookies. A lot of their star players have been in the league. This is either their second or third year, and you can't say too young because look at Green Bay. They're the youngest team in the NFL, I think. Like, their average age is 26. The oldest person is Josh Jacobs. Like, you can't say they're too young. It's the organization. It's the coaching. It's this is not a good constructed team, not a good coach team, because if it was, we'd be seeing the same success that the Packers are having.
I'm not ready to see Aaron Rodgers leave still being able to be a good, too great quarterback. Joe Flacco, I'm ready to see him leave. You know, he's not capable of doing what he once did, but he's never been an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is playing subpar of most quarterbacks in this league. He's definitely in the top 15. But with that being said, he's top 15.
I don't know, man.
You can name 15 quarterbacks better than Aaron. I mean, you can name 20 quarterbacks better than Aaron Rodgers currently active and playing.
I ain't say 20, but if I make this list, it's gonna get pretty dicey once we get to 15. It's gonna get
Start
pretty
actually
dicey.
making this. Anyways, not all of this praise for the Jets who are 3-10. Miami do not make the playoffs. Miami finish the season strong. Miami, give all your star players a reason to believe that Tua and every other star on this team could come back next year and make it to an AFC championship, but do not make the playoffs this year. Have fun, enjoy yourselves, be explosive. Shout out to Tyreek Hill, 10 receptions, 115, one touchdown. He had a hell of a catch at the end of the game. He got smacked in the back. It was scary. Miami, be a fun team. Do not be a playoff team. All right, moving on to
Retweet.
you said tweet.
I said retweet.
Man, okay, let me make sure I'm still recording because I just saw a little glitch. Okay, anyway, we're back to it. Okay, we're gonna skip over the Jags Titans. Jaguars win 10-6. We could skip over this one. Shout out to the Vikings for having an amazing, successful season. AFC North, AFC West, two best divisions in their respective conferences. Vikings, awesome. You got anything right there? Oh, real quick, are you ready to give up on the Falcons season, even as a team that's
No,
not going to make
because
the playoffs?
no, because they still can. They're only one game.
Division
They're only
stuff,
one game. They're only one game behind the Buccaneers. So
but
in theory, they can still make the playoffs. But Kirk Cousins needs to be better. He's thrown 6 interceptions in 2 weeks. We need better from Kirk Cousins. If he loses, maybe if they get eliminated from playoff contention, I think he's benched. I think Michael Penix is in.
yes,
But they're still alive. They are still alive somehow.
AFC North best division. Shouts out to them. Falcons worst division. Not and shout out to the Buccaneers, man. They just had some very rough stumbles. They're a really good team, but since that Bronco game, it's just been it's been mishap after mishap to say the least. Um, we had the Panthers almost winning again. Hey, we'll breeze past this one. The Eagles are the best team. Is Saquon okay? Because this scares me. This makes me feel like Saquon had an issue. No, 20
No,
carries.
I think the Panthers are just playing good football. Bryce Young is earning himself another year to show that he can be a franchise quarterback. They're just playing good football. That's it. That's why it was
What's
such a
the
tough
difference
game. And
between
the
the
Eagles,
Jets and the Panthers? Both 3-10
uh,
teams. Both had crazy
on
hiccups.
paper, the Jets are the better team on
Yes.
paper. But in actuality, in execution, in toughness, in coaching, it's the Panthers, which feels weird to say. Right now, where we stand, I'd rather play the Jets than the Panthers. We can't act like they didn't almost beat the Chiefs like a week or two ago. Like
They've
they
been playing
came
good
really
football.
close to man. So that's why I'm like, I don't the Jets. That's why I'm saying you got to blow it up and your coaching. I don't know. I don't even think Bill Belichick can fix this, man. It's something.
Shout out to the Eagles. They're definitely a second round playoff team. So we'll see what Saquon does in the playoffs. The Buccaneers beat the Raiders. The Raiders are probably the best worst team to me as far as coming out and competing every week with the worst quarterback you could possibly have in the league. No matter who's starting, like they just always have the worst quarterback on the field in a given weekend. Baker Mayfield, 18-29, 295, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. El Boogie. That is a pretty wicked game, but he still ended up with 28 points. How you feel?
Yeah, another week for the Raiders, man. Losing a game that really wasn't that close. Your starting quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, he actually got injured in this game and had to get carted
Oh,
off. So that's why they put in Desmond Ritter. So yeah, it's not looking good for the Vikings. I mean, not the Vikings, the Raiders. I start to worry about their head coach. What I could see happening is I could see at the end of this season they have a top 3 draft pick. It's clear they're going to get a quarterback, and they get rid of Antonio Pierce, which I don't think is a deserved thing that's going to happen. That could happen, but I think that is what's going to happen. Um, give a new coach, like especially if they can hire somebody like a Ben Johnson from Detroit, um, or you get like a Mike Vrabel or something like a really good coach that's going to hit the market, and you get a top 3 pick to either take Shador or Cam Ward or whatever quarterback you like, and you start fresh next year, I think that's what the Raiders are going to do.
I don't want anything bad to happen with Antonio Pierce. I don't think he got his fair shake. I think he got into a really bad situation this year. I think he finished a horrible situation good last year. But a bad system's a bad system, no matter how good the person is. And maybe I'm wrong about Antonio Pierce. Maybe he's not head coaching material yet. Um, I you can blow it up. You know, you're looking for a Shador in the draft. You got Brock Bowers, who is begging for a decent quarterback. You got Henry Ruggs was last year or this year? It was last year, right?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years? I just feel like the Raiders just had hiccup after hiccup. Even moving past Max Crosby might be something they should consider. Like, I think they need a
Honestly,
true
yeah.
refresh in Vegas. Like they need a true refresh in Vegas. It sucks to let the good things go. But I mean, you're playing with the worst quarterback in football week in and week out. Regardless of which one you, whether it's Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, or the guy who looks like an emoji. He just like has no face expression or scars. He just looks like a fucking emoji. It's horrible. I hate it. I hate his face. Shout out to him though. He made it to the NFL. El Boogie, shout out to the Raiders, man. I hope Shador really does make it there. And the Bucks, I'm excited to see out of the Bucks and Falcons. I want to see the Bucks in the playoff because I'm pro Baker Mayfield. But with the Falcons, I would love to see Atlanta make it to the playoffs and get smacked at home. I'm like, that's not the most entertaining thing, but I mean, that's what would happen. They're not beating those bottom NFC teams, especially if it's from the AFC, the NFC North. Like they don't want that smoke in Atlanta right now. We got the Seahawks and Cardinals. I don't have
This
nothing
was
on
actually a
the Seahawks
fire.
are making that
This was a
spread.
fire game.
Yeah,
This was a very fire game. Really, honestly, I think the Cardinals could have won this, but Kyler had two really bad early interceptions that kind of set them behind the goalposts. I think Seattle was gritty. Seattle ran the ball down their throats with their backup running back. He had a great game. Geno, no silly turnovers. Seattle just executed to the best of their abilities today. And Arizona tried to keep up. They had a chance, but they just couldn't get it done at the end. And especially this game matters a lot for the division too. So now Seattle has a really good command over the NFC West. So if they keep playing like they're playing now, they're going to be in the playoffs. And Arizona, the Rams, 49ers, they're going to be at home.
I the Seahawks. I'm okay. Geno Smith, you are a strong quarterback. You've had ups and downs in your seasons. You earned a contract, even though you didn't get paid like the max like any other player. I think he's just earning his spot in the league more and more. Now it does change throughout the season, year in and year out, but the Seahawks are legit. I mean, the Seahawks are legit. The only thing that they're not legit as is being past a one or two playoff win team. And I'm like, is that okay? Not for the grand scheme of things, is that you won a Super Bowl. Year in and year out, we don't go saying with this Geno Smith team that they're going to be a Super Bowl team. But year in and year out, I honestly, in my heart, believe Geno Smith always comes back through. I think they do good work. What is this? His third year making it to the playoffs? If they make it,
I think second. I
okay.
think.
And I think the year before he did win it because this is the second year on his contract, a new contract, and the year before he earned it and ended up going to the playoffs. I don't know if they won a game, but they did make it to the playoffs. So I mean, it's cool to see that happening in that regards. Other than that, this team's not special though. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one thing to just be a good team, and that's why we're trying to get the Steelers to break out of that. Oh, you guys are just a good team. Oh, no matter how bad the roster is, you guys are not going to be a losing team. But you're going to lose when it counts. So I'm like, I don't want the Seahawks to fall in that line. I don't want the Steelers to fall in that line because it's getting to a consistent level. But with that being said, it looks like a great win. Kyler Murray, it looks like the reason they lost this game was because of the two interceptions. You take one of those interceptions away, add a score, maybe a field goal, you win this game. So it's that simple. So maybe it looks like he had a bad bad day passing, but I mean, looks like it was pretty productive. Just 2 interceptions does hold your team back. All right, we're gonna skip over. We're gonna skip the Bears and 49ers. The Bears, it's his rookie year. He still had 2 tubs, 17 to 23, 134. Definitely looks like he's not taking any chances, huh? It's kind of who Caleb Williams is. He's either gonna get it done with his feet or he's gonna play it safe. Brock Purdy, 20 of 25, 325, 2 touchdowns with a pretty beat up team. Shout out to George Kittle. 6 receptions, 151 yards, eh? Look
Yeah,
at
big
him.
day for George. Big day for the Niners. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of those games that when the offseason hits and Brock Purdy is negotiating his contract, he's going to point to this game right here.
For sure, for
Debo's
sure.
playing like Debo didn't play good. McCaffrey out. Juwan Jennings and George Kittle are your receiving options, and you win by 20 plus points.
Shout
You
out to
know
them.
that's a good day for the Niners.
Did he throw an interception? No, he didn't. Shout out Caleb Williams.
Nope.
The stats look good, but I'm sure it's because they got outpaced and they're probably playing it safe at this point in their season. Just trying to get to the
Mm-hmm.
offseason and get to development. Um, the Bills and the Rams. I would say that this was the game of the week. Actually, the last game we're going to talk about tonight because that was it. The Bills and the Rams. Crazy. I think, yeah, game of the week. Complete shootout. Not too many lead changes because the Rams always kept the lead, but complete shooting, like just shooting, firing back and back. 22 of 37, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns for Josh Allen. 23 of 33, 23 and 23 passes. Matthew Stafford got 320 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm saying it as if Josh Allen didn't just do 22 for 342, but damn, both quarterbacks had a hell of a day. Josh Allen actually ended up with the most rushing yards as well. He's like a real MVP. He ended up with 10 carries for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen scored every single touchdown in this game?
Dude, he said it was an NFL record. First time a player has had 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in the same game.
Damn. Talk about taking over Josh. Shout out to Khalil Shakur. He got a touchdown as well. Dang, and they still lost this football game. Oh, Boogie, what happened here?
I mean, Josh Allen tried his best with his Superman cape on and everything. He tried to pull him in. They were close, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter to be within 2 of the Rams. Insane. I mean, yeah, this was a gritty game. I think the Bills are still a great team. They showed that they can put the gas on when they need to and come close. Um, yeah, but I think unfortunately, I think they're one, two, Josh Allen dependent, and two, the decision calling down the stretch was questionable. When you have the ball at the 1 yard line, you're trying to conserve time. There's 1 minute left. You know you need to kick an onside kick to get the ball back, and they did a QB sneak with Josh Allen, which made them when they didn't get it, and it made them burn a timeout. That timeout would have made a difference down the stretch because then maybe you didn't need to go for an onside. Um, so
Yeah,
I
you
don't
had a
know. It was
game
a
time. That's a really rare one.
yeah. So a questionable decision there, and then a gutsy decision by the Rams. It was like 4th and 5 on the final drive. They go for it, and Matthew Stafford hit somebody for a completion for the first down. Pretty pretty gutsy on their part. Honestly, this was a beautiful football game. Honestly, I can't really critique either side's too much other than the Rams letting them come back and the Bills kind of having questionable coaching decisions. It was just a good football game.
Yeah, it's just a good football game to watch all the way to the wire. Even my girlfriend was like, "Wow, that was a good game." I was like, "Yeah, it was. It was like fairly just a good game." There is nothing wrong with losing in the NFL. I mean, like you guys are the best players in the world playing the sport. It is only the best 53 players in the league on any given team. It's okay to drop a couple games. I think the Bills still stand out as one of the best teams. I don't really think they're going for that number 1 seed, anyways. I don't think they could get it with the way that the Chiefs are playing. Um, as far as the Rams, they battle of the fittest. I mean, their division right now is up for grabs for anybody. So whoever stands out the most will end up with that first playoff and get a home game. So shouts out to the Rams for a really, really good win. And shouts out to them for recovering from all these injuries, right? Then we have like a Puka Nakua injury. Matthew Stafford was out for a couple weeks. I think their running back was out for it. Kyron Williams was out. Like,
He's actually been pretty healthy, but yeah, Puka was out for like 6 or 7 weeks.
yeah.
Um, yeah, they've overcame a lot, and they've played better as the season's gone on. So again, another well coached football team right there.
Shout out to them. And then headed to our beloved AFC West, El Boogie, we have the Chiefs beating the Chargers. Definitely a slow football game to start. I've been watching it as we've been talking. It's just pretty slow. It looks nice and slow. Nothing too bad. We got the Chiefs up now, and usually you're supposed to get a pretty big lead ahead of the Chiefs to end up beating them. How you feel about the rest of this game playing out?
Yeah, it seems like there hasn't really been much success on offense for either side. So we'll have to see. I think they're going to make some adjustments in the second half, and we'll see a different style football game. But even though I've come out as a certified Chiefs hater, I'm actually rooting for the Chiefs to win this week because it is a foregone conclusion they're going to win the AFC West. I just want the Broncos to be ahead of the Chargers. So as every Chargers loss is a great thing for me. So go Chiefs today.
Are the Cowboys out of the playoff hunt?
I think mathematically no, but they're getting close.
They're on a 3 game
It's
win
getting
streak. Oh, they're on a 2 game win. Okay, if they were on a 3 game win streak, I might have turned up right now. We got the Cowboys playing the Bengals, the best worst team and the team that should be good, but they're really bad. What do you think of Monday Night Football? I actually want to talk about this one.
the Cowboys have been playing decent football the past couple weeks, especially with Dak being out. You kind of expected that they were going to kind of fold it in for this season. Um, but actually, what am I saying? They barely beat the Giants by one score. They did beat the Commanders, and then they got blown out the last 2 weeks. So they're, yeah, I don't, you know what? I see the Bengals winning this game like 35-21. That's what I see. I see the Bengals coming in because the Bengals are really in a must-win situation. Like they have they have negative margin for error. I see them going into Dallas and Joe Burrow throws 400 yards and they put up 40 points and they win. Cowboys
I,
are just going to try to keep up.
I don't believe the Bengals have any chance of making the playoffs. I think they should be focused on getting a really great draft pick, especially with a couple great players who probably don't want to be there next year. But if they do try to make the greatest charge in the world, I'd rather see the Cowboys make a charge without Dak Prescott than see the Bengals who've just completely fumbled a lot of games with that really poor defense. Um, with that being said, I do got the Bengals winning tomorrow and ruining the Cowboys season and I guess making some scary charge because there's not really a charge to be made. The Broncos have a pretty comfortable lead and the Dolphins are the scary team. The Colts are this Colts game is actually going to be really big for the Broncos. I think that they should go into this week as if it's a playoff game. Like make the divide huge cuz Miami's on its way. The Bengals not so much. I don't see the Broncos losing more than 8 games, and I do see the Bengals losing more than 8.
There's an argument that the Cowboys have more to play for, but you got to keep it in perspective. If the Cowboys make a push and make it to the playoffs, that means they're taking the spot away from the Commanders. Now, do we think that's actually going to happen? Not really.
Why
At
are the
least, at
Commanders
least the, at least the Bengals. I could see the Bengals going crazy and coming close to getting in the playoffs. They still in theory they can, so that's why they're going to come out and play their best game. But yeah, the Cowboys, they don't realistically have a chance.
for sure? Shouts out to the Giants, man, 2-11. Anyways, El Boogie, take us out. I think that about wraps us up.
once again, thank you guys for tuning in to El Boogie and the Bell. Make sure to check out the full video on YouTube and all the clips on TikTok. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, let us know we're right, and let us know we're wrong. Let us know if there's some content you want to see too. We'd love to talk to y'all. But yeah, once again, we appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all here same time next week.
Peace.